Los Angeles, and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, May 30th. LA Galaxy 3-1 winners over FC Dallas on the midweek Wednesday night game in front of 19,500 plus at Dignity Health Sports Park. We're going to talk about that game and get you through that. Galaxy currently in second place, unbeaten in 6, have a 2-game winning streak. Can they get to 3? The mythical 3 wins in a row. And we wish you all a very happy Klein-iversary. 1 year since Chris Klein has been let go from the LA Galaxy. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things as we get you ready for Chicago. In order to help us do that, we're glad to have him. He was at the game on Wednesday night. It is the Hammer himself, Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm reporting live from Daddy Hammer and Sons offices here. As you can tell by the 5 CD changer that is here in the background, the Santa Maria ship in the background. So, you know, I'm in my childhood home. I watched the LA Galaxy last night. Life is good. No complaints here. I was going to say, all good.
Do you remember how baller it was whenever you got the 5 CD changer? Like
this thing, you hear my chair squeaking as well.
Yes.
But that thing got me some mileage and some play. That was a big deal right there.
What was it? Was it like the Iowas or something? The AIWAs that like everybody had and stuff like everybody had the same one, and you would put it in and you'd watch them rotate around. You hit the button and you next disc. And
then you can customize it. Yeah. So it's going to play track 3 from disc 2, and then I'm going to go to disc 4 and blow your mind, brother.
That's right. That's right.
What a good time.
100%, man. I miss those days. Actually, that was kind of fun whenever you had the CD players.
Right?
I remember whenever I got a hand-me-down Ford Explorer whenever I was 16, 17, and it was like my first ride. And I remember hooking up like the Walkman through the cassette cassette player and had like the one. But my CD player was so awesome. It sat on the floor of the Ford Explorer, right? It was so awesome because it had anti-skip on it. That's right. It recorded 7 whole seconds of the song, and if you hit a big bump, you would survive somehow. You know? You
mean I could throw this CD player on and my rollerblades and this thing's not going to skip? Are you kidding me right now?
Eventually it got to be that, like eventually that technology got that good.
But on the car, it was a big deal.
Yeah, in the car it was a big deal, but no, it was a lot of fun. Well, you're in SoCal, you're hanging around, you got to go to the game, a little experience. By the way, the DJ for Wednesday, I was a huge fan. I'm in.
I loved it.
Yeah, great.
Violin. I was not expecting that. There's been the DJ and the different thing. I did not know that we were going to get a violin performance as well. I dig it. I love it. Every time I've not been to the games every week, but I see kind of the clips, and I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but seeing it in person and kind of experiencing it, I like what they're doing. I like the game day experience, and going through to the home opener versus Miami and a Wednesday night game versus FC Dallas, very different environments.
Right.
But
absolutely.
I kind of like, there's something about, I will say that a Saturday 7:30 p.m. game at Dignity Health Sports Park, nothing better. But there is something nice about a Wednesday weeknight, school night. We're just going to go out. We're just going to watch some soccer. There's not going to be tons of people there. Traffic is not going to be as big of a nightmare getting out. There's something nice about mixing those in there too. So, I'm all about kind of looking at the bright side. So I had a great time, especially when the G's win.
Yeah, I was going to say that's always a nice part of everything too. By the way, the DJ is, I guess, the Chargers DJ. She does the Chargers ones. I don't know her name. I should have checked before. I didn't remember that I was going to talk about it until right now, but I was a big fan of that. And watching the LA Galaxy play, I'm going to say it, some pretty nice soccer. I know there's people who complain because I see you on my Twitter feed all the time. Just keep going. Eventually, maybe somebody will respond to your just craziness that you're spouting. But the Galaxy, and I said this against Charlotte, and I think people probably discounted it. It was game 3 of 3, but there was something calm in the Charlotte game. I saw that calmness in the Houston game. I saw that calmness again in the Dallas game. The Galaxy were winning the Dallas game 2-1. They eventually win 3-1. But the bottom line was at 2-1, for maybe the first time this year, I was sitting there going, they're not going to let Dallas score. Like, I'm watching Dallas play, and I saw against the run of play. I saw the goal they scored in the first half, and of course it could always happen, but I was like, this isn't happening. This is now a team that seems to be maturing. It seems like they're not being as stupid as they have been. One of the big things, and I think I talked about it at halftime, was I saw this Galaxy team solving problems, and that's the next step for Greg Vanney, is not Greg Vanney making all the adjustments from the sidelines, but from the actual team going and solving problems on the field. And Dallas made a shift into the second part of that first half that sort of flummoxed the Galaxy a little bit, and it took them a while to figure it back out. But towards the end of that half, they were back on the solid footing. They're like, nope, we got it. We're back. We figured out where the holes are. We got it. I don't know if Dallas just isn't a good team, which certainly by the standings you would say that's the case, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, I feel like there's maturity. This is a team the Galaxy should play and who they should beat. They played them and they beat them.
That's my big takeaway is wins at home, and especially 2 wins at home without Joseph Paintsale, who through the first third of their season was basically their MVP. And so to have him go through the injuries that he's gone through and a little bit of a slump with a couple of games, if you want to call it that. And so to win without one of your designated players at home and kind of set the standard, where I'll respectfully disagree with you a little bit is the point of not feeling like it was ever in danger at 2-1. I did feel like the Galaxy could revert to some old, 2023 LA Galaxy and make a mistake after dominating the whole game. And so my devil's advocate to those who may be complaining, and I'll side with them here, is that the Galaxy were clearly the better team, but the result wasn't necessarily reflecting that. And I think with that early goal they scored in the 4th minute, I thought, well, the route is on. Dallas is towards the bottom of the standings. Right. Joveljic got his early goal. Like we're dealing with 4-5-0. I might get to go home early, and we're gonna have a good time. And so when they didn't, and Dallas got that goal in the run of play, in my opinion, it was a little bit of a fluky goal. Beautiful finish, but nice. Dallas really wasn't creating much, and I think that goal threw them off. The missed penalty threw them off, and so. The good news is the Galaxy were clearly the better team. And so that I think that's oddly enough, that's what's probably frustrating fans is if you're clearly the better team, you should be up 2-3-0 and the game shouldn't even be close. So when you're clearly the better team and you're only up 1-0 or the game's tied 1-1 when you've been dominating, right. Or you're only up 2-1 against a team who's down a man and you're still getting some nervy moments, I understand that frustration. I think that is the next level still left to unlock. And it's funny, I was mentioning Paintsale being the MVP through the first third, and I feel like we farted, and it's now halfway through the season right. After this Chicago game. And so now halfway through the season, they've shown a lot of positives, and there's still more levels to unlock. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways through this first half of the season is we tried to measure our responses and not get too excited about being top of the table and where they're at and saying there's still more to undo. Gabriel Peck's still got to find his rhythm and find his way in the team. The team's still got to gel. A lot of new additions to the roster. There's still another level to unlock. We've said that about Galaxy teams of past, and they never gelled. They never figured it out. They never found their rhythm. And so now each time we've said that, they've unlocked a new, skill, or there's a new wrinkle has been added, and right. They figured something out, and they have been progressing. You've seen the growth in this team, especially in this, unbeaten in 6 run, even though some of the results, we weren't thrilled about the 4-game draw streak, but at 6 games unbeaten is pretty darn good. Yep. And you were talking about it with Baxter on Monday, also 2 losses. Look at the standings around the league. You're not going to find any other teams with less than 2 losses. So you have to be pretty thrilled with, as frustrating as the play may be when you're too close to it as a fan, the results are ending up fantastic. And so I think that's my biggest takeaway is this team is looking really good. They're dominating other teams. They're looking good. And it's just now they need to, where the results are really going to emphasize how much better they look than some of these other teams.
Yeah, it seems that way. Let's get to some super chats, and then we'll dive into this game a little bit more, take you into some of the details. Aaron, $5 super chat. Puig is such a joy to watch. I watched him for large chunks off of the game last night. Off the ball, he is constantly moving, running to the ball. I will say yes. Also, in the press box, I play a game called Look, Riqui Puig almost played defense. That's where he almost plays defense, but not quite. No. Greg Vanney said something about Riqui Puig after the game. We were sort of talking about it, and he said his acceleration is ridiculous, and it's not just the acceleration. He's like and if you go back and listen to the Vanney press conference, he's like he goes up against fast guys and still runs away from them. He's not like a super high speed guy, but he gets from 0 to 60 like faster than a Tesla Cybertruck. He is like, he's like 1.0 and everybody else is at like, 6.0 whenever they're trying to get to the 0 to 60 mark. I don't know that I've seen, and it was funny because Sasha Kleshman put out his MLS All-Stars and what he was going to do. And that, by the way, this is your friendly reminder, and let's just do it right now. The All-Star voting has started. So as we've been saying now for 16 straight seasons, all right, do not vote for Galaxy players. That's not how this works. You find the team that you want to decimate the most, whichever one that is you choose. I'm going to let you guys choose. Go ahead, and you vote for all of their players to get in. Listen, everybody else is doing it too, so that means the Galaxy players still going to get in. Riqui Puig still going to be in the All-Star game. We all know this. We all know it's going to happen, right? I think Miki Amane has a good chance of being in the All-Star game. Like, you can sort of look at some of these and say, these guys are probably going to go anyway, but don't purposely put LA Galaxy players into a meaningless game where they could get injured and in a congested schedule already. That's just my thing. You can do whatever you want, but this show has been consistent through 16 years.
Yeah, I think you split it between Inter Miami and LAFC, and you just go right down the middle and pick your 6 and 5, and that's how you go. It's one of those things. It's an honor to be nominated, even though you don't want the Galaxy players to be nominated. But Aaron hit the nail right on the head. The Puig is a joy to watch, and the tagline is right there in front of us, and no one's saying it. It's blondes have more fun. He came into this game blonder, and the way he was playing, you can tell he's having fun. Right. He was like a man possessed. He was hungry and getting after it. And I thought you were going to say our favorite thing that we like to say, the difference between speed and quickness. He's quick. He's quick on the ball and the turns. Quick. And so the thing I love about him, and we say this every time, but it just bears repeating, it's not that he is, doing these, roulettes like, Zidane or, Ronaldinho, Elastico. He's just doing quick cuts, just little cuts, little turns, little circles, and he's just doing these little donuts and getting around players. It's nothing fancy, but he's so quick and he's so, in control of the ball and in his body with those movements that it just wreaks havoc on defenses. And that last goal was just a masterclass and a perfect finish to the, in the performance. I haven't done this yet live on the show. I know we like to do our champion of the match, right? That I like to do. I wanted to give it to Dejan Joveljic. He had the brace. He's getting his goals. The argument can be made for Riqui Puig. What say you? Who would you, if you had to give a man of the match performance? It's right there. It's
I think Puig is the guy. I wouldn't.
So too.
I thought he was outstanding.
Crazy.
I thought he was outstanding, simply outstanding. There's this thing that he does, and it doesn't seem to matter who it is, and he just turns people in circles. You never know which way he's going to go. He gets the ball. He's the only player I've ever seen get the ball between 4 guys, and you're like, oh, he's getting out of that. It's almost like the more guys that you have on Riqui Puig, the more chance he's going to get out of it, because everybody else is like, well, I don't want to run into my guys. So, he's like, nah, I got you. I'm just going to split 6 of you right now. See you later. Have a nice day.
The thing with Riqui, and we've said it also, is that he's dribbling into 5 or 6 guys isn't the problem. It's his own passes that are going to be his downfall, not and someone else coming and dispossessing him.
Which I will say, I think has improved a lot over the last 3 or 4 games. I don't see as many.
As a whole team.
Yeah, well, and that's the calmness I'm talking about. It's being in position, so whenever Riqui does give up a ball, the Galaxy are counter pressing. They're putting pressure onto teams, and you saw them do it on Dallas. I don't know that I've ever seen the Galaxy win more balls in the air than they did against Dallas. I don't know what happened. That doesn't happen. The Galaxy don't win balls in the air. Like, even McCarthy, when he would hoof it up, like, the Galaxy were winning those, and you're like, oh, okay, this is weird. It's like, oh, usually they just give it right back.
We're going to check the average height on the Dallas roster. We're going to find out. I know Paul Arriola is not exactly a towering figure. So, yeah, maybe it's just they found a shorter team.
Let's see. James, by the way, $10 super chat. Love COG. First time giving a super chat. Thank you, James. We appreciate that. I was having a bad day and realized COG is live tonight. Nothing makes me feel better than getting the latest news from COG. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you, James. Thanks for
Shout
stopping
out to you,
by.
James. That was sweet.
That was very nice. Let's see. Mildly fearsome films. My kids Riley and Luke say they love the show. Riley and Luke, we love you. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it.
Riley and Luke, we love you, man.
That's awesome.
And or people or kids
or kids. Yeah, however it works. $2 super chat there from them. Raphael, $2 super chat. Happy Klein out anniversary to those that celebrate. Absolutely. And then Raphael, $2 super chat. Will the G's finally win 3 in a row? God, no. It's never happening. No, it's never happening. I don't even know why everybody's worried about it. That we were sitting in the press conference afterwards, and Damian Calhoun was there, and he was like, I'm like, I don't know, chance for 3 in a row. They're gonna do it in Chicago, and he goes, you know, Greg just can't wait for you to ask that question after the Chicago game, right? And I'm like, I feel like if Vanny gets 3 in a row, that he should just come in and like pound on the desk and say, ha. Just I did it.
Double bird.
Yeah, exactly. Screw you guys. You know, the whole day. And by the way, I would appreciate that. I would like that. You know, the whole deal. It's like,
I think there would be a lot of fun with that. You know, our first question, Josh Guesman, Corner of the Galaxy. Yeah, congratulations on your 3rd win in a row.
Yep.
First 3-game win streak, and then just the sigh of relief and the laugh that would give. Kind of like you were saying, after a draw, you can't make some of the jokes or the Seattle game, you know, about the outfit, but after a 3-game win streak, I think he'd happily answer that question and entertain it.
It was definitely one of those. We were talking about just that. I imagine Greg comes onto the press conference and says, I have an opening statement, which is, yes, Josh, I'm glad we finally won 3 in a row, because he knows I always ask that question. So, but that one is going to be an interesting one there. The other thing from this game, and then we can talk a little bit more about some of the individuals in it that I thought were really good, and we can sort of break some things down, was that Dallas had 4 yellow cards in that first half. And at halftime, I went to go grab my cookie, and I ran into Michael Stevens, who was also grabbing his cookie. And I said, there's 0 chance Dallas finishes this game with 11 guys. And he was like, oh man, I hope it happens in like the first 5 minutes of the second half. That would be great. And I'm like, I don't think you're gonna get that lucky, but it's gonna happen. I thought it was gonna be Arriola, because he was fired up in that first half. I don't know.
We talked about it at halftime. Well, I know why. I have my theory why. We talked about it in the halftime circle. I think, you know, we know he's from the Southern California area, probably had family out. I think he was playing with a chip on his shoulder, like he had something to prove. There's, you know, when you're playing in front of family in your hometown, there's something about, you know, playing with that little bit extra, and it almost worked to his disadvantage. He was almost playing too emotional, too fired up,
too juiced,
with so much to prove, too juiced.
Yep.
And so I think that may have worked against them.
Yeah, Dallas came out very angry from the very beginning, and just the yellow cards started racking up in that. So I thought that was really interesting. We look at the starting lineup. There was a late scratch for the LA Galaxy. That was Gaston Brugman was supposed to be, and even in this starting lineup graphic, was supposed to be playing. Apparently, he went back in after warm-ups and had some nerve irritation, is what Greg Vanny is calling it. Nerve irritation on the knee that he had surgery on. So it was, they didn't think it was anything, and I don't know that Greg would call it precautionary, but it almost seems like it's more precautionary than everything. Yeah. But he's like, we are not taking a chance at all.
Why mess with it?
Yeah. So then it was up to Mark Delgado, who came in and got to play. And Vanny mentioned afterwards, he said, you know, think about Mark. We told him, hey, we're going to try to give you some rest tonight. You know, you're not going to play that many minutes, so sit and we'll get you in the game, you know, the end, and then that way we can rotate you the whole day. And he went from that to, hey, you're starting and you're playing 90 minutes, you know, so... I know that I think I've seen some criticism Mark Delgado recently where like he sort of disappeared a little bit. I would say he is not disappearing. He's still doing a lot of the things the Galaxy need him to do. It's just not as showy as maybe it was whenever Paintsel was there. And I think you can understand a little bit why, but Delgado had some good passes in this game and was very much a part of that offensive push.
I'm surprised to hear that. I haven't seen as much of that, and maybe I'm running with the wrong circles, but I was actually just about to sing Delgado's praises. I think he's been, you know, one of the Galaxy's most consistent players all season long, and he did. Jalen Neal had this in yesterday's game too. It's my favorite thing that I like to say about referees is that the best thing you can do is have me not notice you.
Yeah.
Because that means you're not causing problems, you're not a distraction, you're not a liability. I thought Jalen Neal was that. you didn't really notice him because he was just doing his job, not causing any problems, and he's just so smooth and so solid. And I think Delgado has been super consistent for the Galaxy. It's not going to look as flashy, but he's in the mix all the time. He's always involved in those triangle passes, in the possession, in the buildup, and even getting forward on the wing. He gets forward on the wing quite a bit, and that's something maybe he doesn't get a lot of credit for, but he's always there. He's always somehow involved in the buildup. It's one of those, maybe he's not the final pass or the, doing the turn like Riqui, but he's always around. If you go back and look at some of those replays in the buildup, he's always involved. So to me, he's been one of the most, consistent players on the team. He falls in that, Mickey Yamane, Mark Delgado, these little hidden gems that you don't want people to know about. You don't want people who are fans of other teams to say, oh, you got to watch out for Delgado, you got to watch out for Yamane. You just be quiet, don't make it flashy, don't make a big deal, but you know what you have as a fan of that team because you watch what they can do every game for them. So I think Delgado's been fantastic.
I agree. And by the way, people in the chat room are already saying that he's been gone for 4. I don't think he's been gone. I think he's been right where you expected him to be. Hasn't always played up to his 10 levels, certainly. But with Delgado, we always talk about it. You're going to take a guy who gives you a 7 and 8 every single day over the guy who gives you a 10 and a 4.
Yeah,
You want that consistency.
I got to give a shout out to Gary in the chat. He said Delgado is the soccer player equivalent of a Toyota Tacoma. That's it.
100%.
It's going to go 200,000 miles.
Gets the job done. It's going to do what
it's not going to go 80. It's not going to beat you in a street race, but it's going to get you done. You need to throw a mattress in there. Yep. It'll get it done. Yeah. You want to get in a compact parking space? It can do that too.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah, he is, and it's comfortable. It's reliable. If it's raining, you're going to be fine. If it's snowing, you're going to be okay. It doesn't matter what the weather is. You're going to be fine. It's just not going to win any car shows. Nobody's going to be like, oh man, love that Toyota Tacoma. But anyway, so the Galaxy going forward there and Mark Delgado. The other thing Greg Vandy sort of pointed out after the game was Diego Fagundes, and you've had Fagundes come in for Paintsel, and he says, hey, you're not going to be as flashy as Paintsel, obviously, and he's not trying to be. He goes, but he does so many things for us that are good, that keep us in good positions. And when we talk about the games where we have seen the change for the LA Galaxy and being in good positions, one of those happens to be that Diego Fagundes has been playing in a lot of these games. He's not going to stretch the field a whole bunch like Paintsel does, but that also means that he's not going to be in bad positions whenever the Galaxy turn the ball over and the Galaxy stay good and well behind the ball. They're able to counter press, they're able to clog lanes, they're able to do anything. If you go and look at the Dallas goal that they scored, my biggest complaint was that the Galaxy had tried to counter and there were 4 guys pressing up. And then the ball got turned over. It got quickly put up that left-hand side.
One of those dumb giveaways. Yeah.
Right. And it was like, you're like, dumb giveaway. That's not what you want to do. And because they had pressed up, there were 4 guys who were jogging back. Right. And they weren't in position. I'm like, I'm starting to count numbers. And I'm like, Dallas doesn't have like a super big number like advantage. But the bottom line is that there's going to be no pressure from Peck because he had just tried to run up. So you're not going to get any pressure on the outside ball. So if that ball gets crossed in behind Miki Amane, there's going to be space somewhere in there. The fact that 2 Dallas players showed up into the box at the same time, Jalen Neal talked to us afterwards, and he said, we need to do better at figuring out where those guys are. He goes, because we were trying to figure out which guy we were going to take and which way we were going to move, and one guy slid in between Maya and I, and it doesn't happen. He goes, maybe I need to slide left there. So
that's tough. That's really tough. And hitting that one time, and with the pace he hit it was a great goal. You have to give credit. Sometimes you just have to tip your cap and say they beat us on that one. We've seen plays like that go where the shot gets shanked wide or a player mishits it. It just happened, where that player hit it perfectly on that. Going back to Fagundes, he's someone who, since Paintsel's been out, I like what Fagundes brings as a sub. I feel like I want a little bit more, but also part of me understands that you have to be thankful that you have a service. The drop off isn't so steep.
Right.
And so maybe that's just something I should be thankful for. But, we're going to talk about individual performances. I'm sure Perez, what he came on and did with his hustle, and he looked super impressive. And so if he could bring some of that off the bench, and maybe he gets a look on one of these 3-game weeks to get a start and see what he can do if, Paintsel and Fagundes need the rest. I'd be curious to see what he would look like starting a game. I know we don't want to anoint too soon, but I'm just curious to see what that would look like, to see if he's ready for those bright lights or if he is benefiting from coming in on a tired defense, with his youth and with his exuberance, maybe getting a little bit more shine than maybe he really truly sees. I want to see him tested versus a a first team starting defense just to see what he could do, to see if this is smoke and mirrors and we're getting too excited, or if he really has it and he's ready to start contributing. Because I liked what he brought off the field. I thought he looked fantastic coming off the bench.
By the way, a fact of the day sent over by one of the hardest working PR guys in all of the industry, Mr. Kevin Acevedo. Mark Delgado recorded his 6th assist of the season, won 7 of 8 duels, 3 of 4 tackles, and 8 possessions, completed 99 of 109 passes, which is 91.7%, notched 2 interceptions, and covered 8.1 miles in the 3-1 win over FC Dallas on May 29th. 8.1 freaking miles for a guy who was like, hey, I get tonight off. Hey, that's cool. He went and told his wife, he's like, today's going to be an easy day in the office. I'm going to come in the second half. It's going to be good. I needed a rest. Do you remember what he tweeted after the Houston game?
Not about the Houston game. He said we were tired because he looked like the players.
Tired. That was it. He was tired. And so we were joking because we were thinking about getting him in the press conference, and eventually we just had too many guys, and we were like, it's a whole deal. We're like, we'll just go to his Twitter feed to see what he thought of the game, and we're like, still tired, more tired. No, he didn't say that, but we were
Did
expecting.
You see his tweet after this game?
No, what did he say?
He caught a paper airplane apparently
I
during one of the goals.
I heard about this.
He said that was his highlight of the match. So, shout out to Kevin Acevedo, hardest working man in the business, best listener of the Thursday show. Sorry to everyone in the chat, but you gotta butter your bread or whatever it is, whatever the saying is. But shout out to Kevin, got to dap him up yesterday as well. But he's all those passes, all those things, 8 miles run. Highlight for him was catching a paper airplane after a goal celebration. Which, if you see the video, go look it up. It was pretty impressive for Delgado just to snag that.
I heard it was awesome. Pottermus says, do we have any ideas what Riqui was talking about with the good news coming? We imagine it's his new contract that will be announced. That's what we imagine. I don't know that it's anything else. He's going, by the way, Diego Fagundes and the hair. We talked about Diego Fagundes.
Celebration.
They confirmed it today, or they confirmed it after the game that Riqui, I think, put the picture of Diego Fagundes and actually like working on his hair, right, and doing that stuff, and then the goal celebration that happened afterwards. That type of thing. But before we saw any of that, we talked to Jalen Neal, and as Jalen was walking off, I'm like, did Diego do Ricky's hair? And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure, right? The whole deal. I'm like, he goes, and we were sort of
2 sessions. Yeah, that took 2 sessions because it's a different shade than it was on Saturday.
So apparently, Riqui said, because it was the first. Again, you have to do more fun things when people win. The first question was, 100%. Tell us about the hair. Well, you know that you won a game and you had a good game. Whenever we say, hey, tell us about your hair, was the first question. Damien asked that one. And he was sort of saying, it's all a process, basically. I think he went somewhere, like one of those salons, Eric. It was one of those nice places on the west side. It was all like, he's put some money down. He's like, hey, I want you guys to dye my hair blonde. And they did it. And it came out like reddish blonde or brownish blonde. Like it wasn't quite there. And he didn't do it. And then he goes to Diego Fagundes, who's like, hey, don't worry. We'll stop by Walmart and get you some hair, get you some bleach,
We'll get you the real deal.
We'll get you the real deal, and I'll do it for you, right? The whole deal. So I don't know if that's how it played out, but in my mind, I'd like to imagine that's how it went
Fair
down.
enough.
On the whole deal. Riqui happy to talk to us afterwards, just talking about what he was able to accomplish in the game and sort of what's been going on. He's been talking about the good news. We still think that good news is the new contract. We don't know that we'll find out what the terms are. We don't know if any of that, but we understand that new contract, which we've known about for a while, is something that. But he reminded us. He goes, like I said, good news is coming. It's like a whole deal. It's like, okay, cool, here we go. So we'll see if that goes, and what that ends up being. So,
yeah,
I mean, let's talk about Johnny Perez, because I think it's an important thing to talk about. There are lots of people who are like, hey, Johnny Perez needs to start right now, get him in there and do the whole thing. If you were looking at what Greg Vanney has been doing with Johnny Perez, he is putting him in situations where it's only positive for him. It's like, hey, Johnny, you get to go and you get to attack, you get to be dynamic, you get to go do your things, and you don't have to worry about a bunch of other stuff. One mind, go do this. This is your job. Your job is to be annoying for the last 10 minutes. Just go. We're not worried about you. We have good coverage behind you. I see people saying, less Aguirre and more Johnny Perez. No, Aguirre's important. There's an important reason why they bring in Daniel Aguirre.
It's apples and oranges also. It's different.
Defensive midfielder versus, exactly. An attacking winger, basically. Yeah. And that's sort of the thing with Johnny Perez. I think Greg Vanney's going to continue to be careful with him in the situations that he puts him in. I don't disagree that you might see more of him against Chicago, however.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's starting, but I wouldn't rule it completely out either. I think that he showed well. I think that he's doing all the right things that you want him to do. They like Johnny Perez. They like Harbor Miller. They like, some of these guys who they've been bringing up in the academy. And, you really have to get a lot of support from the Galaxy if you're ever going to play in some of these places where they go out and spend, $20 million on two guys, two wingers, right? They think a lot of Johnny Perez. I think they want him in there, and I think they're trying to bring him along without trying to put him in any situations where it would, stunt his growth or really set him back mentally. So I think they're going to continue to be careful, but I think you'll see him more, and I think that'll be good as the Galaxy work towards the playoffs.
Yeah, and just to clarify my statement, I'm not clamoring that Johnny Perez needs to be our everyday starter. I was just saying I would like to see what he can do in a starting role just to see what we really have, because to your point, I think, sometimes we've been fooled a little bit by these, whatever we want to call them, the G2.5s, where they're maybe excelling at, the G2 level, but then they come to the first team, they look good maybe in spurts, but then when it comes time to really, where the rubber meets the road, they're not able to meet it. So that's why I would like to see him in some of these starting positions that I think he's showed well enough, and the, depth may be necessary at some point to see what he can do. And so that's why I'd like to see it. It's not necessarily me saying, hey, hit the bench for goodness, hit the bench paint. So we have Johnny Perez, at his age, we're ready, we're set for the next 10 years. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I'm curious to see what he can do against another starting level defense.
Galaxy are out here trolling us, by the way. I would just like to point out, they just tweeted something, and I am doing my best to get this on.
Fun times.
I know. This is like live.
I heard it's okay. Empty locker, right?
Good news coming this week. I mean, it is, by the way, I would like to point out, it is Thursday, so tomorrow is Friday. So
not a lot of week left, right?
The good, I mean, I would imagine. I mean, obviously it goes all the way to Sunday. I don't know what they're thinking, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's an announcement coming up on Friday.
There's a signature behind it.
Is that Riqui?
It looks like, is that Riqui Puig?
It's got to be Ricky's signature, right? I mean,
Almost LA Galaxy. Yeah, there's the Riqui surfboard. Yeah, okay. And that's literally his exact words. Good news coming this week.
Yeah, maybe they've been pushing that. Maybe there's a
zooming
plan for
in.
these
Yeah.
things. Yeah, okay, good. But anyway, so we're looking at this and sort of I still think it's contract. I know people are saying like empty locker and stuff like that. I don't know that I read that much into it.
I think with the Royce rumors, I think they're maybe putting some extra pieces together with the yellow being prominent, but literally Vamos LA Galaxy. So again, we're in Spanish, the Riqui bobblehead,
right?
It looks like his signature in the background. So I don't think they'd spoil it that hard and put Marco Royce's signature behind the good news coming this week, if that's what it was. So I think it's pretty clear. We're speculating. Maybe we'll have our listener of Best Thursday listener Kevin Acevedo text you and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, Kevin, just tell us, and then we'll keep a secret to everybody and all of our listeners.
We won't tell anyone. We're just three dudes. We're just talking.
We're just talking. We're just having a good time. Gabriel Peck, I thought had another good game in this one.
Yeah.
Had some chances. One of the things Greg Vanney talked about afterwards was trying to get Peck to accelerate through his shots, and basically he wants him to be able to put more weight behind the ball. He wants more speed behind the ball. And he says because he's sort of just kicking at it instead of kicking through it, he goes, those shots are going to be saved when he's trying to take those balls and curl them around the goalkeepers. He's like, I think he's sort of indicating that he wants more venom on it. So Greg was a little more critical on Peck than I thought he would be in this particular game, but I think it was because it came during a good performance that you're able to do that, right? It's sort of like, hey, we can talk about the things you didn't do well that we've been sort of working on because you had a good game, and we know that you're progressing that way. So I thought that if you looked at Greg being a little critical of Gabriel Peck, I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay in how he was trying to say it, so I didn't have any problems with how it is. But bottom line is that he as Vanney sort of ended all this with, he goes, his upside, is just so big. And we're so excited to sort of have him. I'm just wondering, you've been playing him on the right-hand side. It's right-hand side, right-hand side, right-hand side. Joseph Patel comes back in 2 weeks. What are you going to do whenever you have two guys on the right-hand side again? I mean, maybe they'll play them next to each other like they have. But it seems almost like Peck is getting comfortable in position that's not going to be his whenever Joseph Patel comes back.
Yeah, the interesting thing that you mentioned, again, not being part of the press conference and not hearing that, but the putting more weight through the ball, that is something that is a flaw of this Galaxy team. It's evident with Joveljic. It's evident with Puig. It's evident with Peck. they don't have that venom behind the ball. It makes you really appreciate what you had and someone witnessing Zlatan Ibrahimovic when he was with the team. When he hit the ball, and he struck it well. And so I think that is what's missing. It's such a silly thing. These are professional soccer players, and we're talking about, hitting the ball with power and really having that. And I think part of why that could have been a critique as well could go down to the penalty. This is one of the things that is driving LA Galaxy fans just absolutely insane, is not being able to consistently convert, penalties. And so I think when you put weight behind the ball and you just hit it hard enough, the good things are going to happen, even if it bounces off a goalkeeper. If you put it in a decent spot, it doesn't even have to be perfectly placed, but when you hit it hard enough, the goalkeeper is not going to be able to get down to it. And so I think that could be where it's coming from also. And the one little mini controversy, that I tweeted caused a little bit of a rumble was I mentioned that hindsight being what it is, it was a little bit of a bad look that Peck really kind of fought Joveljic for that penalty,
right?
Because Joveljic wanted to take it and Peck took it off of him. And we know with different players who have missed, I think if you've missed a penalty this season, they're going to try to rotate until someone doesn't miss. And so I understand maybe why he took it off, but I don't know if maybe I'm crazy or if it was like this when I played. To me, if you created the chance, you got fouled, and you were the one who was about to score, even if you have a designated kick taker, you kind of get the first right of refusal where you get to say, hey, I'm going to take this. I created this opportunity. This is mine to bury. I think he had every right, Joveljic did, to want to take it. So I thought it was a little bit of a bad look that Peck really fought him for it and then goes on to miss it. Obviously, if he makes it, there's no discussion. It's not a big deal. And then in the second half with the second penalty, Joveljic wanted to take it again, and him and Fagundes kind of get into it. And a little thing that may have not been noticed if you weren't there in stadium is Yoshida is the one, Oji-san, what do we call him? Grandpa,
yep.
Captain kind of came and he had the conversation and he deferred to Joveljic. So the captain spoke and said, let's let our goal scorer take it. And I think that was the right move because he was feeling himself. To me, he had already scored early in the game. I don't think he had to worry about he's in a goal drought. If he misses this penalty, it's going to cause chaos. He's feeling himself. He scored the goal. He's your number 9. He already has a goal. Let's get him on that, 2. He could have had a hat trick if he got that penalty. And so I think he had every right to want to take that. And so any critique of Peck, I think he is growing into his game, and it could be
right
with the position change that's happening with Paintsil gone. I'm liking the progression with Peck, but I also think that the critiques are there and they're fair, and hopefully, those are things that he can continue to improve upon and agree. But I wish we had, a guy who could really, slam the ball. Greg Vanney was that guy when he played. If you remember back in the day, he used to slam some penalties. He took some free kicks for the Galaxy. So if there's a coach who's going to be able to help some players accelerate their leg through the ball, I think Greg Vanney is probably the right guy for the job.
The other part about this is, it seems to me like there needs to be some guidance from Vanney, right? There needs to be, hey, these are our guys. I want Joveljic taking him. I want Dejan taking it. Decky's our guy. Let's give it to him. And if for some reason he's not feeling it, then it's this person. Blah, 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 the whole deal. But I'm kind of tired of this. Like, it's like roulette out there. Like, they're like children.
Yeah,
and
they don't know.
Yeah. It's like, no. Let's just establish the pecking order and say this is what it is. And Maya, if you need to change it up for some reason, then change it up.
Or if Maya wants to say, I'm the captain, I'm taking it.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Penalties are not that hard, and the Galaxy are in their head. Dejan Joveljic has only missed 2 penalties his entire career, right? So I think he has
one
8.
was against Dallas.
Yeah, right.
At Dallas, I was at that one.
So, but there's 8 that he's taken 8 and he's made 6. That's
not bad.
That's fine. That's what you would expect. You want about 70% is what we imagine you're going to get on PKs, and that's the other part of it too. Sometimes people just make good saves, and sometimes they just guess right. And
the Dallas goalkeeper is a good goalkeeper. It wasn't. They weren't dealing with a schmuck either. Yeah.
Right. No. He was. I thought he was more than capable of doing. And by the way, Maya Yoshida had a game where it looked like he should have scored 4 goals, and he couldn't buy one. Greg Vanney said,
coming from. Yeah, those are some incredible saves.
Right. Greg Vanney said Maya couldn't buy a goal in this game. He hit the upright once. I think 2 were saved, and one of those was like
fingertip saves.
Yeah, fingertip saves. Yeah. He should have gotten one at least. Whenever they go in there. The penalty kick was the downside of, and I think really did sort of put the LA Galaxy in a little bit of a mental funk for a little bit whenever you have the chance to do that. But I think they did a good job of playing out of it. So I'm sort of ready for the Galaxy to get beyond this whole penalty kick thing and just start burying some of those. But bottom line is they created 2 dangerous chances. They got 2 times they were awarded with penalty kicks, and that's not something we've seen a whole bunch of. And so, again, I think that's progression. That's
a great point. That's not nothing to create penalties. You could have the penalty argument, but the fact that you're creating those chances says a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the Galaxy also getting a red card game in one of these where Dallas goes down, to the 10 men. So there was a lot of positives on this for me. The real thing, though, by the way, is if you really want to pay attention to the domination that I think the Galaxy really did sort of put out there, their expected goals was 4.4 and Dallas had a 0.5.
That's why people were upset with winning 2-1. That watching with your eyeballs, that was not a 2-1, 3-1 game. That was a 4-0. Should have been, maybe a 4-1 if you talk about it. That's why I think if there is going to be criticism, it didn't match what our eyes were showing us.
Yeah. And so I think that you're sort of seeing that. So, as we go and we look, the LA Galaxy get some players on the team of the match day. That's Dejan Joveljic up top. He gets maybe his first or second. I think it might have been his second team of the match day for Joveljic on this one. And then it was Riqui Puig who was in there, and then Julian Aude as well. So, Julian Aude. Let's say it correctly. So with Aude and Puig on the bench. I think Puig should have easily been a first teamer on this one. But
no brainer. Yeah, especially with the goal he scored, the highlight reel. I'm shocked he's not getting the love.
That's okay.
On that match day of the week. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, Ricky's no good. He's washed. Hey, ex-Barcelona guy couldn't cut it. Don't have to worry about him.
Nope.
Yeah, don't prep your defense for it.
Nope. Don't even have to think about him. Don't even have to think. Yeah. Some wild games on Wednesday night, and you should expect that on Wednesdays. Midweek soccer is always a little crazy. It's MLS After Dark in its best way. Nashville snapping Cincinnati's win streak, 2-0 win in Cincinnati. Atlanta just beating the ever-living crap out of Miami, by the way. That was one we were sort of watching in the press box whenever we were going. Montreal 4-2 with DC. I think DC has suspensions and injuries and all sorts of stuff, but they've sort of been spinning down the drain recently. Montreal, I think, finished up a man in that game, if I remember correctly, but 4-2 winners for Montreal there. The game that was delayed, I think, Red Bulls hosting Charlotte. Red Bulls end up getting the 3-1 win over Charlotte. I believe that not only ends Charlotte's shutout streak, but it also snaps their unbeaten streak as well. Philadelphia and Toronto 0-0. Austin lost to Portland in Austin. Austin is this weird team that suddenly was near the top of the standings again, and you're like, oh wait, and then now you're like, oh, okay, never mind.
There they are. That's the Austin.
That's the Austin, right?
Yeah, from the beginning of the season. Yeah.
But I also think Portland's starting to come alive a little bit right now too. So if you're looking in by the way, Western Conference, it's a jumble. We were trying to figure out. I don't know which one it is yet. We can talk about this, but let's talk about the Western Conference and what it means if everybody's just the same. Does that mean you're going to need more points to get into the Western Conference, or does that mean that actually into the playoffs, or is it going to be less points because everybody's beating the crap out of each other? Think about that for a second while I finish scores. The LA Galaxy will.
I haven't answered.
I know, right? The team the Galaxy will be playing on Saturday, Chicago, had a 1-1 draw with Orlando at home. We're going to talk a whole bunch about Chicago, but the ugliest goal in the history of goals was scored in this game against Chicago.
I was just going to say, if you want to see a cartoon circus goal, go look up the Chicago Orlando highlights.
I think MLS had tweeted it out and then took it down. It was so because it was one of those. They're like, nah, that's probably not a good look. Houston running rampant over Colorado. 3-1. Sporting Kansas City falling. I mean, Peter Vermees, SKC, bottom of the Western Conference again. There's alarm bells going off there, but Vancouver beats them on the road 2-1. The Galaxy.
Ryan Gauld brace, my MLS hall pass. He surpassed Johnny Russell. Ryan Gauld, I love watching that guy play. He's one. If I could poach one player from a different team, Ryan Gauld would be that guy.
He's fun to watch for sure. Mm-hmm. Seattle 1-1. This was the one that chapped me. I was like, oh. RSL, they're not going to win this one. Seattle was up 1-0 somewhere in the 92nd, 93rd, 94th minute. I think it might have even been in the 98th whenever RSL finally tied the game in Seattle and made it 1-1. RSL's unbeaten streak continues. It might be at 13 now, if I remember correctly. It was 12 or 13, but they scored in basically the extra of stoppage time. And it was going to have the LA Galaxy closing to within 1 point of RSL, and instead it's 2 points because they just got the draw, but that's okay. Still picking up points on that top. And then it was LAFC 2-0 over Minnesota, a wonder goal in that game as well. So lots of interesting scores and things. But go back to this. We look at the Western Conference. Let's go to the standings right now. On the right-hand side, in the red, Salt Lake at 30 points, the LA Galaxy at 28. If you look at points per game, the Galaxy are probably still in fourth whenever it comes down to it. LAFC and Minnesota both have, I think, points per game over the LA Galaxy right now, based on games they played and all that sort of stuff. But the Galaxy in second place, where they sit, everybody's bunched. You can see it all the way from 9th, which is 19, all the way up, basically to Austin at 5. It's 23. There's only 4 points separating those spots. Are the Galaxy going to need more points in the Western Conference to qualify for the playoffs? If you're trying to get in, are the scores going to be higher this year? Are they going to be lower because everybody's beating up on each other? What do you see?
I think the points total is going to be lower, but where it's going to impact is the seedings. So you're going to have a lot of teams jumbled up with similar numbers of points, but your 3 seed is going to play your however they differentiate it, your 7 seed or your 6 seed. I forget what the playoff format, how that ends up, and it's going to be your 3 seed who ends the season with 49 points or 53 points, and then your 7 seed with 50 points. I think it's going to be something like that where it's so jumbled. I do think the separation of the top 6 is going to be stark by the time. I think it's going to work itself out. I think those, Kansas City, San Jose, Dallas, Seattle with their struggles, I think they're going to kind of land around there by the end of the season. I think there is going to be a separation, but the teams that are in the hunt, I think they're all going to be so bunched up, and the seeding is what's going to be interesting on who gets the home games and how that all works out on their way to MLS Cup. But I think, to your point, I think an Eastern Conference team is definitely going to be hosting MLS Cup final this season.
Yeah, I mean, Miami, every time I think Miami's invincible, they go and lay an egg at home and do something stupid, right? And you're sort of like, wait a minute, that wasn't very Miami of them. But I just looking at this. Also, one of the things to point out to you, the LA Galaxy currently have the 3rd best goal differential in the Western Conference. That's been slowly creeping back into a reasonable number here for a little while. The Galaxy, I'm going to show you the goals and the predictions and stuff like that we can sort of predict out over the 34 games, and it is starting to be more than reasonable. It's starting to look almost good. and so I don't know what that means for some people. Some people really don't like it whenever I try to explain that, and we try to predict it out. But here's the other part that we sort of want to get to is the LA Galaxy sit in 4th place in the Supporter Shield as well. Just keep that in mind as everything goes forward. One of the things that we want to point out is the LA Galaxy start. Now, there is a thing for Greg Vanney. Greg Vanney's teams start slow, right? That's what we've been told. In 3 of the 4 years that they started for the Galaxy, that Greg Vanney has been in charge of the Galaxy, they did not start slow. As a matter of fact, they started pretty fast. And we can look at that. With 28 points in 2021, 28 points now in 2024. As good as the Galaxy have been playing this year, they are no better than they were right now in 2021 through 16 games. Now, we can go and look at the eye test and say that this feels like a different team. But I would like to point out, in 2021, they had 28 points. Did they make the playoffs in 2021? No, they did not.
Can I say something about that 2021, though? During that run, I feel like we all knew deep down in our hearts that they're overperforming. We didn't think that they were going to drop as far, and they had a killer losing streak that just ruined their season. But we knew how hot they started that season, and with Chicharito being on fire that year, we're like, man, this is all working out. It's really looking good. But it felt like, I don't know how they're sustaining this. It felt like they were overperforming. And so this season, it feels like they're doing well, but they can be better. And I think that's the difference. While they're the same exact on points, right, I think the feeling behind the teams is very different.
By the way, Eric, $5 super chat. What are the Galaxy's best and worst attributes? I think some of the best attributes that we've seen so far is how deadly they can be on transition. They are very, very direct. This blows people's minds. The Galaxy are super direct. Whenever they score, they're usually on a transition moment. They're usually 2-3 passes, balls in the back of the net. That's usually how it works. When they're in control and they're trying to control a game and they're trying to control possession, that's where you get the sort of the meandering stuff that people don't like. But I'll tell you right now that in order to be successful in a league that's going to play 34 plus games, in order to be successful in a league that has so much parity, you better learn how to take care of the ball for long stretches of the time so you can rest. That way you can be effective in transition. I was arguing on Twitter with somebody basically, and they were saying, oh, well, the Galaxy took their foot off the gas again and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, no, you cannot attack just balls to the wall for 90 minutes, you will lose that game every single time. You need to be able to control some of the possession, control some of the game, move their players around, put them in bad positions, and that's how you capitalize on things. And you need to be able to rest during the game. The team that can control the ball for large periods of time, that can still be dangerous during those periods, is going to be the team that's going to win that game. You can certainly have some where you go up and you score and you can sort of, park the bus a little bit more, and that's okay too. That's resting well on defense, and that works as well. But you just, there has to be, I think for the Galaxy, their best resting position is when they have the ball, and that's what I think you want to see a little more of.
Yeah.
So.
And you know what helps that is being up a goal, or being up 2 goals. And I think that's to your point of always the importance of scoring first and having multi-goal cushions. I think that's what was missing from that first half. Is if the Galaxy are up 2-0 after that penalty, maybe Dallas gets that goal back, but I think that puts a dagger in Dallas or so early in the game that maybe they're not even, you kill them off before they even have a chance, and the Galaxy get to dance around with the ball. So I'm with you. I think one of the Galaxy's strengths, to answer the question in there also, is that when they want to press, they're scary. When they are going after a team and have a defense on their heels, you saw, poor Omar Gonzalez just got, he got could see the worst of it with Riqui Puig flying at him at full speed. I mean, when the Galaxy choose to turn it on and go that direction, they are a very scary team. But when they, decide to pass it back and get possession, there's a purpose for that, and I understand why they're doing it. But when they want to turn it on, they can be really scary, and that's one of their strengths, 100%.
Biggest weakness is still set-piece defense, although, knock on wood, it's sort of been under control for the last couple of games. We'll see if that continues or if that's just a fluke. It certainly has helped that the Galaxy are winning games 2-1, 3-1, that type of thing, and, sort of keeping that down. So I think that's one of their worst attributes. I think that they get too negative, not in their passing, but in their mentality. Whenever they face adversity, I still want to see them, and I think they have been doing a little bit better, but whenever they give up the goal to FC Dallas, they're sort of like a little like, oh, come on, that type of thing. And then they get the penalty kick, and then they don't convert that. It's like, oh, come on, it's so unfair. Remember how like you and I would play, you're playing FIFA or something, and you're about to win, and all of a sudden the computer like dribbles down the field, goes through 7 guys and makes a shot, and you throw your controller across the room? The Galaxy throw their controller across the room sometimes, and I think they need to be not so, mentally hyped up on stuff. They need to be a little more even keel, but you like some of that energy that they bring too. So it works both ways.
It's one of those things where I'm critical of the quote unquote home run ball, where you try to thread the needle and go for too much. And so that's sometimes where you give away a ball in transition, and the next thing you know, you have the other team counterattacking and scoring against you. And so that's the negative thing. But if you have a team who doesn't attempt home run passes, that's not a good thing either. So you want that team with a little extra spice and to get after it and to try to the home run ball. I think that's one thing that the Galaxy, with the addition of Peck and with Paintsell earlier on in the year, is breaking those lines in the back and having those through balls from Delgado or from Puig or from Yamane or whoever they were coming through, or even the wingers themselves with that interchange. I think that's where they're killing teams, is with breaking those lines. And so I think that's definitely something where it's a curse trying too much for that home run ball, but at the same time, when those things go through, they're impressive, and that's going to get you, at the end of the day, that's going to score you more goals than not attempting those passes.
$2 super chat from Eric as well. We appreciate that, Eric. Aaron, $2 super chat. Ricky's goal possibly an own goal. Aaron, nobody cares. I just want you to know. I'm not trying to be mean. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. I don't care if Omar Gonzalez picked it up, stuck it under his shirt, and rolled over the line. All right. It doesn't matter.
Ricky credit for that.
Yeah, Ricky gets the ball.
I had a teacher in high school who made this big speech at the beginning of the year that, if a football player catches the ball in the end zone and runs, this amazing run and hurdles over all the players, but he gets tackled at the 1 yard line, he doesn't give him a touchdown because the rule didn't get in the end zone. And that was his way of saying, if you get an 89.99, I'm not giving you an A. Like, he was making a big thing. And I'm like, you know what? I understand that there's rules to the game, but also you're a person. Like, if someone does something super impressive and you're at the 99.99, you give it to them. So even if that was a Ricky own goal, you don't take that away from Riqui Puig. He 100% earned that goal, even if it hit a hair or a foot or something else that another player knocked in. Riqui Puig created that goal and deserves 100% of the credit.
Potter Masasta, was Omar glad to be back at the digs again? I have no idea. We didn't see him.
He did make a post. I do follow Omar Gonzalez on social media. He was very well received.
I'm sure.
I think out of the Galaxy players who are on.
What about Sebastian Lletget? Did we hear some booze in there?
Yeah, out of the former Galaxy players who returned in FC Dallas, Omar Gonzalez was definitely the most well received, and deservedly so. He was, started his career there, won an MLS Cup, scored an MLS Cup final. That's a game that's very dear to me because it's a game I went to with my dad, and so. He is beloved by Galaxy fans, and he made a post how he was happy to be back. It seems like the Galaxy organization rolled out the red carpet for him and his family as well. His kids were there. Kids were excited, taking pictures with Cosmo and things like that. So I know it's easy to dunk on the guy. He's, further along in his career, maybe doesn't have it like he did when he played for the Galaxy. But to me, he'll always be a player that has, a special place in my heart as a once a G, always a G type situation. And you could tell it meant a lot to him to come back and play in this stadium. And it was a big, check the box thing for him, because who knows if this is it for him after the season or how much time he has left in his playing career. So I think it meant a lot for him to get on that field and play one more time at Dignity Health Sports Park. And kudos to him for still being out there and making that happen, even if, Ricky did kind of have, his way with him at the very end there.
Sebastian Lletget, I heard some booze. I think there's some Becky G fans.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's 100% part of it.
Can you explain something to me? Because I was talking about this, and somebody that I was sitting next to in the press box was like, "Oh no, I think they're getting back together." Are Becky G and Sebastian Lletget getting back together? Do you know this? Have you heard this?
Okay, I'm not going to pretend like I don't know the drama. I'm not in with it. Apparently, obviously, it's a big PR nightmare when you're dating a superstar at the level of Becky G,
right?
And then you're basically blackmailed, and some naughty pictures are released, and it's found out that you're having some infidelity things with this beloved pop star. It's not going to be very well received if they get back together. So, but from what I've heard or seen is that they actually are either behind the scenes or quietly.
They had coffee, right? They had coffee. That's
or whatever it is. I don't know.
In your neck of the woods. I heard it was in Dallas. What kind of crazy crap is going on in Dallas?
I think Becky G is just so beloved. And I'm not going to be a weird old man about it, but like, come on, man, you fumbled the bag so bad. Like it's Becky G. What else do you want? What more do you want in life? You're playing soccer for a living. You're dating Becky G. Come on, man. So I think that 100% leans into it with why people are maybe not as happy with him returning to the stadium.
I think the Galaxy did a good job making sure that neither of their former players scored on them, so that was nice.
That's a win, right?
That is a win. Charlie, by the way, $2 super chat. Funny how Ricky avoids passing to Barry. I know everybody loves to pretend like Ricky avoids passing to Barry. Barry opened up both of Ricky's runs in that last second. Like those last two plays, the second one Ricky scored. The first one I saw everybody going, "Oh, he had Barry open on the right-hand side." Bro, it's Riqui Puig and he's near the box. Like, why would you pass the ball?
He does that to everybody. He would do that no matter who was up there. And not that I'm going to walk back any critiques that I've had of Miguel Barry.
Oh, no. I mean, I might not pass to him. Like, like that. I get it. But I don't think that's Ricky doing that, like, to just exclude him. I think he's doing it because he's using him as a decoy, although everybody should know that nobody's going to pass to Miguel Barry. So I don't know.
But I also think Barry might get one or two more. I like what he brings off the bench. I do not like him as a starter. I don't think he's reliable. But I like that there's something there with him. I have hope for Miguel Barry still.
Let's see. LA Galaxy outsider. $5
yeah.
It was me. I'm the one who boos. My man. That's right. That was a Becky G song.
There's
wasn't
a whole song.
Yeah, I know.
There's a whole song.
Yeah, the whole deal. James, by the way, says, "Don't hate me, but my lady bought me a Lletget candle, and I light it when the LA Galaxy played." Now we know. Why. Why Sebastian Lletget? He hasn't been playing a lot, so I thought that was an interesting little take on there. Let's see some of the other numbers that we can sort of point out to you, so that we can then get over to the Chicago game, because I think it's important to sort of focus on the Chicago game. The LA Galaxy had a May in which they went undefeated, had a points per game of 1.67. That's 6 games 6 games played in that for a total of 10 points so far in May. Not so far, but in May, because May is over and the next game they play will be in June. So the Galaxy, I mean, listen, it's one of those things where you're sitting there saying, that's not great, because you can say, oh, you played 6 games, you only got 10 points. But at the same time, 1.67 on the points per game during that. Anything above 1.5 is usually pretty good, especially when you realize you had some away games in there that were difficult.
And no L's in that row is massive also.
The Galaxy have only lost twice. I don't know how to tell people this. It seems like they don't go and look at the thing, but they've only lost twice this year. Which is something certainly to pay attention to. It's a little small. Well, I could probably make it a little bigger. But the LA Galaxy...
I've heard that before.
Yes, I know. Promises. But the LA Galaxy, looking at their games played to date, 16 games played, goals scored to date, 30, goals conceded to date, 23. So if we project that out, the Galaxy are going to score 63.8 goals this season, and they're going to allow 48.9. I'm sorry, is that 48.9? Is that well under 67? Is that under 50?
Under 50, yeah, under 50. I'll take that all day.
That is a almost respectable number. I mean, it's not great. It's not perfect. It's not exactly where you want to be. And again, the Galaxy at +7. Their +7 goal differential right now basically ties them with 2022, where they finished with a +7. If you wanted to see any team that had a better goal differential, you'd have to go all the way back to 2016, where they had a +15 goal differential. And you go back to the Bruce Arena years, 2014, they had a +32, by the way, just in case you were keeping track on that one. But the Galaxy the Galaxy scored 51 goals last year and allowed 67 goals last year. So we're looking at, 63, 64 goals scored, which would be a significant increase in goals.
Trending in the right direction.
And the 48.9 is a, almost 17 better right now than where the LA Galaxy were. So again, I think you're right, trending in the right direction. We still have to pay attention to this, though. The LA Galaxy's longest win streak, only 2. There's Greg Vanney, 21, 22, 23, 24, 2, 2, 2, and 2. They have never, in the tenure of Greg Vanney with the LA Galaxy, they have never won 3 games in a row. It is a mind-boggling stat, and I can't wait for it to go away, but it's not happening this weekend. I refuse to believe it is. If you want to look at the longest single season unbeaten streak right now, the Galaxy tied it they had a 6-game unbeaten streak earlier. They have a 6-game unbeaten streak now. So that's where they sit with that one. And then the Galaxy snapped a pretty big streak, actually. They snapped a 6-game skid in which they allowed the first goal, or didn't score first, I really should say. Yeah. That didn't score first, because they had 2 0-0 draws in there. That was 6 games. So in their last 7 games, only once have they scored first. Whenever they score first, the LA Galaxy actually have a pretty good record. I hate to break it to you. Let's see, 5-0-2, right?
I'll also go back to what you were saying to goals scored and how much better it is this season as well. That also helps. Dejan Joveljic has 9 goals already this season. Last year he had 6 in the entire season. So that helps a lot when your striker, who you are banking on starting the season and scoring all the goals, is actually scoring goals.
Yes.
That's going to make a big difference on your goal differential and your goals for. So it's just one of those super obvious things, but I think that needs to be stated as well. Last year, Tyler Boyd and Riqui Puig were tied for leading goal scorers on the team with 7 goals apiece. And so I think now when you have Puig already at 5, Joveljic at 9, way beyond pace on where that's going. And then when you consider what Peck's contributing, what Paintsil's going to be able to add in, and then where you're going to sprinkle in, Yoshida going up and getting those headers every once in a while too, I think that shows all the difference in the world. Yeah.
The 9 goals, 2 assists from Dejan Joveljic right now. Big deal. 1,008 minutes for him so far. So really interesting to see him coming alive, seeing Riqui Puig come alive. And as we talked about Riqui Puig before, a guy who's just really tearing some people apart. 5 goals, 8 assists for Riqui Puig right now, and a guy who looks like he is ready and willing to get that big contract coming up here pretty soon. So that's one of those that is there. I'm trying to think anything else I want to get from that. No. I already told you not to vote in the All-Star game. That was pretty much the most important thing.
No, vote, but not for Galaxy.
Not for the Galaxy. That's right.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Let's get let's get ready and let's talk just a little bit about this LA Galaxy game, where the LA Galaxy will be facing off against the Chicago Fire at Soldier Field. This game coming up on Saturday, That's Saturday, June 1st, 5:30 p.m. kickoff time here on the West Coast. So it'll be 7:30 p.m. kickoff time in Chicago. The LA Galaxy 7-2-7, Chicago 2-8-6. Chicago has,
rough.
They are not. This is not a good team. I know we say that a lot, but this is not a good team. Chicago in 14th place right now, minus 13 goal differential. I believe they haven't won a game in 8 games. Yeah, haven't won a match in 8 games. And we can go and look at their actual streak as well. We can go back. It has been a long time. The last time that they beat anybody was 8 games ago. It was Houston, a 2-1 win over Houston. And then since there, it's been tie, loss, tie, loss, tie, tie. You might say that they might be turning a corner, except that DC hasn't been playing well, and Orlando hasn't been playing well. So really the chances that I think they probably really wanted to get in there and do some damage, they haven't been able to do that. That's a little flip side for the LA Galaxy, which again have only lost twice this entire year, and the Galaxy currently on a 2-game winning streak, but having that 6-game unbeaten streak rocking and rolling for them right now. So what are you thinking about the Chicago game here?
The biggest benefit that Chicago is going to have is the home cooking, just being at home. They were at home, I believe, for the Wednesday game. Yeah, they're at Soldier Field on Wednesday. They're not going to have to travel. The Galaxy's going, essentially across country to Chicago there on third game of the week. And so I think that's the only thing you have to be concerned about. But with how Chicago's been playing, there's no reason why, the Galaxy shouldn't be the third win in a row for Greg Vanney and to figure it out, because you look at the roster and who they have. You have Andrew Gutman's on that team, Kellen Acosta. These are players who maybe have had their better MLS seasons, 2-3 seasons ago. They're not exactly reaching their prime. They're more on the decline. Someone like Hugo Kuipers is their striker. He's our leading scorer with 4 goals. So again, I was just mentioning a good start to the season, 4 goals from your striker, your DP striker. It's not exactly setting the world on fire for half a season. So while they have, some semblance, it's not like they're getting completely blown out. When you look at their form guide, there's not a team that, I think RSL was the one team that's beat them 4-0, and they ended up beating Montreal 4-3. But other than that, it's not that they're getting completely blown out in these situations. So there's something where I don't expect the Galaxy to go in there and completely romp on them, especially with the third game and the travel. But it does seem like this is a winnable game for the Galaxy.
It is, and all my fun aside, it really is a game where I think you can take points. I think you should at least get a point out of this game. That seems like that's reasonable.
That's the expectation, and should be bare minimum. Yeah.
Just some little injuries here. Chase Gasper, unfortunately, we don't get to see the LA Galaxy going back and seeing Chase Gasper out there. He's out right now. The other one that is not playing right now is Shaqiri. He's actually away with the Swiss national team. He left early.
The Euros.
Yeah. He's preparing for the Euros, but he got a special agreement to leave even earlier to go to camp and do all that. He wants out of MLS in Chicago so bad. So
he's done. Talking about players past their prime, that's one of those. They wish they had the receipt on that one.
Right. Right now, we're expecting Paintsel to be out. He shouldn't be back yet, and I don't think they're going to. We don't know about Gaston Brugman, so something to just sort of watch as we go is how the Galaxy rotate into that. Greg Vanney said, basically, I'm sure there'll be some changes and adjustments that we're going to have to make for Chicago. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I would imagine that Joveljic actually is probably okay in what he's been doing and how he's been doing it. Greg was a little critical of him too, saying in recent games that he wasn't aggressive enough. He wasn't making the runs with the speed and the change in direction that he needed to be, and he thought that was an adjustment that he made very nicely in this last game. So
that was noticeable in this game. One of my thing in my notes is that Dejan was hungry. You can tell he was a little bit more aggressive, had a little bit more fire to his game. I don't know if it was the goal drought that he was coming in, maybe wanting to get back on the score sheet after his hot start, but he was playing with a little extra motivation. So kudos to Greg Vanney for either pointing that out or highlighting it, because it definitely worked. And I don't see a reason to swap out Joveljic from starting this game, especially when you have the extended break to look forward to after this. I think you play with a hot hand. You start the guy who gave you 2 goals in this past game.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, by the way, $5 super chat. Let's get to that before we get into our predictions. What Galaxy alumni or attributes of a former player do you think would be a perfect fit for this squad? I mean, realistically, you'd love to get somebody who is really solid on the ball. Listen, I'm always going to be like, hey, get Mike McGee. Find yourself a Mike McGee and put him out there. A guy who is not good. It's basically Diego Fagundes with a little more goal scoring acumen, right? Because Mike McGee, you'd be like, oh, he's out there, but he's good. If it was the playoffs, he was good for a goal. You knew the goal was coming. You're like, oh, Mike McGee's going to score. So who else? What are you thinking?
Am I taking crazy pills? Is Zlatan not the right answer?
Oh,
imagine the power. We're talking about guys who can't bury the ball, who can't finish penalties, who are not bullying other players. You need someone with power. So you have Paintsell and Peck on the wing with the speed, killing guys. And then you have Zlatan just bullying defenders as well. We're talking 60 goals at the end of the season with Zlatan mixed in there. To me, it's a no-brainer. If they mean alumni as in
right,
in their prime, if they mean who right now, who maybe they're missed out on, like someone like a Tyler Boyd from last season, who could they benefit? But as much as I liked Boyd, I don't think the drop off to, Fagundes and Paintsell and Peck, it's not dramatic. So while he'd be a nice luxury to have, I don't think he's necessarily, he would be a perfect fit and make this team better. I think that's maybe a little bit of I haven't talked about this since I've been on about the Royce move. I don't know exactly, and this is such a weird thing. I don't know who he replaces. Where does he fit in? Who does he take off of the starting lineup to put Royce in to make sure that he becomes part of it?
Brugman. I mean, Brugman, you could do that. You could do Delgado, like in that. Like you're going to put him in the central midfield with Puig, right? I mean, that's going to be the answer.
In that triangle.
Yeah.
But then you lose some of that defensively, and then
you do. But
you're not banking on him for 90 minutes 100% also, and that becomes part of the game plan.
Imagine.
All right, I've just been talking.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. By the way, I still think that's a long shot. It doesn't feel like that's something that's super in the wheelhouse. So, we'll pay attention to it and see what happens and what comes of it. Because I think it's going to be a very expensive deal for the Galaxy regardless. Even if they can get him on TAM, it sounds like Charlotte wants, all of the Galaxy's purse strings and a firstborn child too.
Yeah. And a luxury box to for the rest of the season.
Right. 100. Well, they can come and watch some real soccer.
Yeah.
Hey.
Did you get James's super chat before, Alex?
I didn't. I missed it. $5 super chat. He says, "Thank you, Josh. I didn't think you were going to read my message about the Leggett candle. Here's another 5 spot for the good laugh. My lady heard it too. So yeah, this one we're all about making dreams come true in here." Gary, by the way, $2 super chat. I absolutely love this show. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Gary. We always appreciate you. And by the way, Alex,
always killing it in the chat.
Alex, 10th super chat. So we certainly appreciate that. Our fun with our super chatters are always awesome, always fun. D ratings, please.
D ratings. So wild D ratings here. We know D ratings likes to favor the home team in this situation. And for the first time this season, the LA Galaxy are favorites on the road against the Chicago Fire. So the LA Galaxy with a 36.9% chance to win at the Chicago Fire. Chicago with a 35.6% chance to win. So not a huge difference there.
Hold on 1 second. Breaking news from Corner of the Galaxy. The LA Galaxy are favored on the road for the first time this year. That's right. Favored on the road for the first time this year. We now take you back to your regularly scheduled programming. There we go. Sorry. I didn't want to, I was looking for it. It was, news. I don't know. I don't know what that means. If I'm a Galaxy fan, you're sitting there going, that's danger, red alert, all the fun stuff that comes of it. I think I have red lights in here somewhere. Hold on. Let me just cycle through. There we go. So, the warning, danger, this is not good, right? You being favored on the road. Chicago is that bad. That's what it's really telling me too.
And they're not as good as at home. That home advantage doesn't mean anything to them. And so that's the thing. If you're looking betting money line on this, Galaxy plus 170, Chicago plus 145. So again, if you're going betting odds, Galaxy still bigger return there. So if I like the Galaxy to win this game at plus 170. Over under, not as crazy about. Over under set at 3. Under 3 is minus 130, and then over is minus 130. Under is plus 110. I like the under in this situation. I don't think the Galaxy are going to score more than 3 goals, and I don't think the Chicago is going to add up to that tally. So I think that's where we're ending up. If again, I like to say my line, not a financial advisor, but if you wanted to put some ducats on the LA Galaxy, I'd back you up on that. I'd feel comfortable that they're going to walk away with some points here.
This serves the city of Chicago correctly for having a bad soccer team. and also closing down the wonderful airport that used to be right next to Soldier Field called Meigs Field. It was if you've played Microsoft Flight Simulator throughout the years, everybody knows Meigs Field. And they closed it, and they went up against the federal government in order to close it. They closed it in the middle of the night. It was all sorts of shady, as you can expect, with Chicago politics and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to say that in retribution for them closing down Meigs Field, 20, 30 years ago, the LA Galaxy will get in there and put some numbers up. I'm interested to see the rotations. I'm interested to see what it is. The point is the goal. Get a point, get out of there. They're going to have a chance to steal this game. They may have a chance to run away with this game. If they come out on fire, if you're Greg Vanney, maybe the game plan is you go in and you say, play the first 25 minutes like you don't have to worry about the next, and we'll worry about the the rest of the game. We'll worry about the 65 minutes on the backside of that. Play the first 25 minutes like you want to bury these guys, and then we'll worry about the next 65 minutes because you guys should be up by 2-3 goals if you play this correctly.
You get Monday off if you win this game in the first 25 minutes because they have a 2-week break after. There's no reason for them not to go for it, to go for the kill. I like that. I like that mentality. If you send the message that go out there, let the rotation. If you want to earn your rotation, go out and earn it by getting those early goals. I like that.
Here's the thing, though. Just because they have 2 weeks off doesn't mean that they're not going to be tired for this game. It's going to be affected. They're going to be tired.
They will be tired for this game.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you don't have to worry about being tired for the next week game or there's not a Wednesday game in between. I'm saying they're going to have their rest after the break.
I'm expecting this game to be ugly. I think the Galaxy very much, if you think the Charlotte game and sort of how it was slow and plodding, I think the Galaxy may very much go back to that just because they're looking to rest. They're looking to rest on offense. They're looking to rest on defense. They're going to look to conserve because when the Galaxy go, they're going to go and they're going to throw numbers forward. I think that they can beat Chicago. But this is Major League Soccer. There's like a 2% difference between Chicago and the LA Galaxy, and sometimes that 2% is like the world and it's super giant. Look at Miami getting just absolutely trounced by an Atlanta team that has struggled mightily. So at any given day you can have an upset, but the Galaxy, Riqui Puig said after the game, he was like, "We want to win 3 in a row." And I go, "Is that something you guys talk about?" Like,
do you want to say that out loud?
Right? Like the whole deal. He goes, "Well, we want to win 6, 7 in a row." He goes, "But we have to win 3 in a row first before we can get to that." And I'm like, "Good answer." But now I know y'all talking about it in the locker room, and that know that you haven't won 3 in a row. Like Greg Vanney's probably said, "Please win 3 in a row for me." Like, do you think he begs?
Yeah, please. I want Vanney to dye his hair blonde when he gets the 3-game
frosted tips.
I think that's going to be the move.
I like it. All right. For me, I'm going to say that this ends up in a weird 1-1 draw because I refuse to believe there's a 3-game winning streak until it happens. I will keep it there. So those are mine. What did you think?
I'm calling my shot. 3-game win streak, but it's going to be ugly. I agree with you. I think 3rd game in a week against a Chicago team who maybe isn't going to be bringing a lot of firepower. I think the Galaxy maybe do get an early goal, and then they play like there's no interest in doing anything beyond that. I think the Galaxy win 1-0.
I like it. I'm not going to disagree. It's a principle thing that I will not not talk about the 3 wins
for the airport. For the airport.
For the airport, exactly. Yeah. By the way, you can still, I'm bringing up graphics of it. You can still see a little bit of the island that's sort of across the harbor. That's where the runway was. It was right there. So it was like lakefront, really nice. Toronto has a really nice lakefront airport, just in case you were wondering as well. All right. Anything else that you want to get to? Was there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we're good. Shout out to all the.
Did you want to shout out
hello?
Did you want to shout out to your brother, who's the official chauffeur of the Hammer?
Oh yeah, valet to the Hammer. I love my brother, and I tell him every day, so I don't need to shout out my brother. But you're right. Let's shout out my brother for getting the 6-game package that allowed me to be here for Miami and for this game since I was in town. He's just the best brother on the planet, wrestling guru, best uncle, Galaxy fan, chauffeur to the Hammer. He always gets the biggest kick out of people recognizing me. It tickles him pink that people come and say hi to me and shout out the Hammer. He always laughs and gets a big kick out of that. So I love coming to games with him, and shout out to everyone who said hello and made my brother chuckle and made us proud. And your words mean a lot. And I always love when people come up to us. We had someone at the halftime say, found you guys during the pandemic, and I really appreciated, listening to you guys and helping me get through it. Stuff like that. We're just guys talking, having fun, being silly, doing TikTok dances, being weird. But the fact that people listen and are part of it, and we have some type of positive impact, as cheesy and weird as it sounds, and Z level of wherever my status lands. It's just cool to be a part, and people enjoy what we do. So shout out to you, Josh. And that's the funny thing. I'll say this as well, is when we see each other, it's like, it's not a big deal. There's not a bit. It's like, I talk to you every week. We text each other. Yep. There's no need to hug or spend a lot. Like, we know each other. This is not a big thing, but maybe we should make a bigger deal when we see each other, because we don't get to connect a lot. But shout out to you. It was good seeing you and being at the halftime circle with everyone as well.
It was good seeing you as well. By the way, somebody tried to like gank our halftime circle there. It was like, what's going on here? We almost got pushed out of our spot. I think not.
All right, we'll save that comment for off air. We'll go for my next one.
Sounds good. All right, Hammer, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and we will get on out of here.
All right, as always, you can find me on everything at HammerEV9, Twitter, X, Instagram, all the stuff at HammerEV and the number 9. You got it.
The X Twitter, which is X, the former Twitter.
I wrote notes. This is the least prep I've done for the show. Shout out to the Santa Maria and the 5 CD changer. So right. Good night, everybody.
All right, that's where it is. If you're looking for me on Twitter next, at Guesman, at at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com. Just going to be that way. cornerofthegalaxy.com, where you can find all of our podcasts, all of our articles, all that fun stuff is cornerofthegalaxy.com. YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, all those places. That's where you can find us. All right, that does it. LA Galaxy facing off and taking off to take on Chicago on Saturday. 5:30 p.m. is your kickoff time. MLS Season Pass is where you can find it. We're glad you could join us. We hope you'll do it again next week. For Eric the Portuguese Hammer, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.